Nyck De Vries, from zero to hero. One man that has found himself in the midst of the brightest spotlight at motorsport is Nyck De Vries, and what a wild ride it has been for the Dutchman, from nearly giving up on his F1 dream to now being one of the most sought-out rookies for a 2023 seat. It wouldn't be much of a stretch to call it a fairy tale. So let's take a look at this fairy tale and see how things started for De Vries, what his acting career has been like so far, and what his chances are for next year. Nyck De Vries is a Dutch national who was born on February 6, 1995 in Uitwellingerge, Netherlands. His father, Hendrik Jan De Vries, is a car dealer, and his mother, Naomi Hesseling, is a housewife. Seychelle De Vries, his sister, is his only sibling. De Vries came bursting onto the karting scene when he won the WSK World Series and the German Junior Championship in the KF3 category in 2008. In 2009, he defended both titles while also winning the European KF3 Championship. His performance would land him a contract with McLaren as part of their young driver program. It didn't take long for De Vries to prove his point to the Woking-based team when he won the 2010 Karting World Championship, defeating the likes of Antonio Giovinazzi to take karting's most coveted trophy. De Vries made the switch to single-seaters in 2012 when he was given a seat in the Euro Cup Formula Renault 2.0 at Ace GP. The Dutchman, praised for his maturity, finished 5th in the Euro Cup and won the Northern European Cup on a part-time basis. De Vries won 2 Euro Cup races after switching teams in 2013 when a new car was introduced to the category, however was unable to compete for the championship. A McLaren-led decision kept him with the team in 2014, with an engineer who joined in the middle of 2013 proved crucial in improving his form for his third year in cars. He romped to the Euro Cup and Alp Series titles, winning 14 races in total. Renault supported De Vries' move to Formula Renault 3.5 in 2015 as a result of his Euro Cup victory. He finished third in the championship, with a maiden victory coming in his final race. Political issues at McLaren influenced De Vries' next move, as he dropped to GP3. He had a disappointing season that included 2 late wins, but otherwise sapped the momentum from his career. McLaren retained him, though a new era at the team made his life even more difficult. When he was finally able to move into the F1 supporting Formula 2 Championship in 2017, he began a relationship with Audi. De Vries drove for 4 teams in 3 years, gradually improving and eventually winning the championship with ART Grand Prix in 2019. He left McLaren that year, and before his F2 season was over, he had signed with and debuted with Mercedes in Formula E. He spent the next 3 years there, winning the 2021 World Championship while also working as a reserve and simulator driver for Mercedes in F1. And to be honest, that could have been the end of the 27-year-old. De Vries was always a driver who was praised for his abilities behind the wheel, but he wasn't always present when he needed to be called up to the pinnacle of motorsport. Yes, he had won the F2 championship, but the numbers of attempts he had to make made the triumph look more like a sigh of relief than a statement. Then came his Formula E victory, which came with its own set of complications as one of the most chaotic seasons in the series' history. De Vries appeared to be destined to be just impressive enough to earn spots in some lesser series, but never had enough backing to get an F1 seat. However, that notion was turned on its head in September 2022. De Vries arrived at the Monza weekend to perform his duties as Aston Martin's test driver and take part in FP1. However, following a shocking series of events, he found himself behind the wheel of an F1 car, staring down the grid, about to begin his maiden Grand Prix. After it was revealed that Williams driver Alex Albon would have to be forced aside as he got diagnosed with appendicitis, De Vries starred on a last-minute call-up to the team, and the transition couldn't have been more difficult, as the Dutchman only took over for Williams for the final practice session on Saturday. The hour has come, and all that. The only opportunity to drive on a Grand Prix weekend is not the time to be conservative, and Nyck De Vries excelled with an aggressive approach to his last-minute Formula 1 debut. And surprisingly, his performance was not flawless, as the last-minute nature of the call-up left him unfamiliar with certain processes, switch changes, and button positions on the steering wheel. But it was almost perfect, which was remarkable given the circumstances. On his way to Q2, he outqualified full-time Williams driver Nicholas Latifi, and further penalties for other drivers propelled De Vries to 8th place on the grid. His Sunday drive had only minor flaws, a black and white warning flag for track limits, and a mirror lockup here and there. After the race, he was summoned to the stewards and accused of driving erratically behind the safety car, but he was only given a slap on the wrist in the form of reprimand. During an outstanding race, the 27-year-old would finish 9th and score 2 points on his debut, in a Williams no less. Amusingly enough, that immediately put him ahead of Nicholas Latifi, the only full-time driver who has not scored points this season. But apart from being the final nail in the coffin for his Canadian teammate, De Vries' name was immediately in the headlines and on the minds of F1 bosses, those who have seats available anyway. De Vries' declaration of intent that day is difficult to match, with the best comparison being Max Verstappen's call-up to Red Bull and Barcelona in 2016, where he won on his debut with the Milton Keynes team. And if you can compete with Max Verstappen in anything racing-related, you know you're doing something right. Even before the performance, he was considered a strong contender for a 2023 Williams seat, but the Italian GP has even pushed him into contention for the seat Fernando Alonso is leaving at Alpine. Toto Wolff, team boss of the Mercedes team for which De Vries has been a reserve driver since 2021, has long expressed his desire to see De Vries on the grid and praised his Monza debut. I mean, I like him. He's just a good young man. He's not only fast, and he's shown it in junior categories, but he's also intelligent and a good team player, and that's why he deserved it today. I don't think that anyone could have possibly done a better job than what he did. You're in an Aston Martin, and then you're being drafted in last minute in a different car. You're beating your teammate by quite a margin, starting 8th and you're finishing 9th. I can only take my hat off. But it wasn't just his boss who praised him. In fact, if you were watching the paddock after the Grand Prix, you could be forgiven for thinking De Vries had somehow won the championship outright. Such was the intensity of the jubilation from the media and his fellow competitors. Lewis Hamilton, who was already racing from McLaren in Formula 1 when a 14-year-old De Vries was signed to the team's development program, also expressed his admiration. Incredibly happy for Nyck, really proud of him. He's such a good lad, a good human. He's been a good part of our team, helping us. For Nyck to jump in and finish in the top 10, that's mega for your first race. Hamilton's teammate Russell, who battled De Vries on his way to the Formula 2 title in 2018, believes the Dutchman did an outstanding job on his debut. He was speaking at the post-race conference with race winner Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, who was De Vries' teammates during Leclerc's title-winning 2016 GP3 campaign. Throughout all of your karting career, the three of us raced against him. We knew him well, and he was always one of the very best, and there's no doubt he deserves another place in Formula 1. So that's just how the sport is. Sometimes, you know, there's 20 drivers. Not everybody gets an opportunity, but certainly now he's proved everything he has to. So where does De Vries go from here? Well, he might as well be ancient Pistol, because it seems, as far as F1 is concerned, the world is his oyster. That's a Shakespeare reference for all you nerds out there. De Vries is a serious contender for a 2023 race seat, with 3 teams interested in him: Williams, Alpine, and AlphaTauri. Though he will be a full rookie with no Formula 1 experience, he will have combined his wider career experience with some very select, very well-executed F1 outings. And it is clear that those who have seen De Vries up close have no doubt about his F1 credentials. This has also been evident every time De Vries has faced the media following one of his Friday outings this year. De Vries has spoken carefully but confidently at Williams, Mercedes, Aston Martin, and Williams again. He's shown gratitude to his teams and respect to the world that he believes he deserves a chance in, but has been reportedly denied. And he struck a nice balance between accepting the FP1 outings for what they were and acknowledging that he was at least in the shop window. De Vries has never acted with arrogance, and his patience and professionalism are finally paying off. He has frequently simply accepted the reality of his situation. You need a bit of momentum. The timing needs to be right. There needs to be a place, said De Vries after driving for Aston Martin at Monza. Within 24 hours of making that statement, all of the stars aligned to give him his Formula 1 debut. And unless something dramatic intervenes, they will also get him a full-time F1 drive next year. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. Now, we know everyone and their mothers say this, but please like, subscribe, and comment down below. It really helps us out. What do you think of Nyck De Vries as a driver? Does he deserve a promotion up to a full-time driver in 2023? If so, which team is most likely to take him on?